At what point did it now become something that has become non-negotiable, sacrosanct, indivisible? Because they've managed to impose, constitutional models away from what was agreed. Because by the time they were getting ready, they had to make themselves constitutions, as like you have Germany and France and Portugal going into European Union. All the negotiations of what they would do for themselves and what they will allow the European Union authorities to do for them. The federal government is supposed to be a union office for independent units. And that was how they came. Yes, that's how they came to where they became one country, to have accepted that level of autonomy. And it was Ahmadu Bello that made that demand. In all, by 1966, the 5 constitutions that defined the federation, the coup came, those constitutions were toppled. All those who are talking about restructuring and how it will happen, those constitutions that were toppled defined the Federation of Nigeria. From the moment they were toppled, the Federation of Nigeria ceased to be. The country was still in place. And a rogue federal government emerged. Elements who, wearing the garment of that Nigeria that had died, began to run riot, seizing the assets of all the federating units, which were contributing only 15% of their income, as they agreed, for the upkeep of the center. The center didn't own anything. So we came from being a federation into this unitarianism. And by the time they were going to hand over in 1979, they had found a way to also work out something that became a constitution that was not discussed. And it was that constitution that was not discussed, in which they had created all kinds of structures from the 4 regions they met that were on ground in 1966. We have now 36 states created by decree. So a new majority has emerged. Each of the states have 3 senators at the place. So, 4 local government areas in which Kano alone has 44. And Lagos that had the same 20 local governments with them at the beginning is still keeping 20, whereas Kano had been broken into Kano and Jigawa. Between the 2 of them, they have 71 local government areas. What are they bringing to the treasury? Nothing. All the money Nigeria has to spend is between the oil money, the port money, and the VAT that is raised here. These people who bring nothing take 72% as of right in the place of sharing. And they're the ones who decide what other people will get, who they give more, who they give less. And in all of this, democracy, let me just refer to the documents you have in one of the documents, you see where we try to define democracy, that we do not have a democracy because democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. In those three legs of definition, government of the people means that you, in exercise of your right to your sovereign right, decide the supreme laws of the land. The constitution we have on the table today did not come from that process. And so we have not decided whether we will live together or how we will live. The second leg is of the people, meaning that only your vote can send people to government house. And when they get to government house, they can only function according to that constitution you already made. Do we have that? The third leg, for the people, meaning that those who wield government powers must do so not only in accordance with what was put in place in the constitution, but for your benefit. The reason we don't have the things that should have been coming to you as citizens is that you have not written the script of what should happen. And so you have in this constitution provisions that exclude responsibility towards you. Section 6, subsection 6C of your constitution absolves government of all responsibilities towards you. They don't owe you any school, they don't owe you any hospital, they don't owe you anything. Anything they do, they are doing out of the milk of human kindness. That is one. You have appropriation provisions. Section 81, section 82 hands over the keys to the treasury to the president. Section 121, 122 hands over the keys to the treasury to the governors. So they don't owe you any obligation. They have the spare key to the treasury. They have immunity in section 308. At what point are you going to get anything from them? How did you come about that constitution? By imposition. And what all the cry and demand for repairing this place goes to is to say, let us accept we have departed from the foundation of being a federation. Because if we were a federation, Lagos Port would belong to Lagos, oil and gas of Niger Delta would belong to them. The middle belt, where killings are going on unabated, unchallenged, will have the right to defend themselves because they will have guns. The Constitution has 68 items on the exclusive list, all written by decree, that make it impossible for the middle belt to touch any gun. You saw where the governors went crying, and the president said, go home and live in peace with your Fulani of Benin. If we do not remove that from that constitution, nothing will resolve that question.